Martin family disappeared without a trace in 1958, leaving Oregon police baffled as to their whereabouts. Days before Christmas, a 5-person Oregon family went missing. Was it a homicide or an accident? On the afternoon of December the 7th, 1958, the Martin family, a family of 5, got into their Ford station wagon. Their destination was the Columbia River Gorge, where they planned on gathering greenery to decorate their Portland house for Christmas. The Martins left their laundry in the washer and the dishes in the sink to return soon. Unfortunately, they never made it back. They vanished during their travels on that cold day and were never seen alive again. Detectives worked on the case of the missing family of 5 for many years. Did the lost Martin family end up in the Columbia River, or did Donald Martin, the family's lone survivor and oldest child, order their deaths? 54-year-old Kenneth Martin dressed up as Santa Claus the night before he vanished and went to a holiday gathering where he continued a family custom by giving out candy canes to his neighbors. When the Martin family departed for their Sunday drive, Kenneth still had not tucked away the Santa costume by the following day. Barbara Martin, his wife of 48 years, had forgotten a load of washing in the washer. The Martin family had 3 children: Barbie, who was 14 years old and a freshman in high school, Virginia, who was 13, and Sue, who was 11. On their way out, all 3 of them got into the back of the family's car, which was cream and red. Before disappearing, the family made 2 stops. One was at a restaurant in Hood River, Oregon, about 60 miles from Portland, where they had dinner. The other was in Cascade Locks, located approximately 40 miles upstream from their home, where they purchased gasoline. After filling up the tank, the Martins were nowhere to be found. Their friends reported them missing in Portland, but the investigation yielded few leads. The family's sudden disappearance perplexed the police, who conducted numerous searches but found no evidence of their whereabouts or their station wagon. The Martin family had gone missing for 2 weeks, and the only piece of information that surfaced was a gas station receipt found in their mailbox. The receipt showed that Kenneth Martin had bought 5 gallons of gas on the day they disappeared. After that, there were no further transactions made from the Martin family's bank account. Authorities were able to locate Cascade Locks, where the family was last seen, thanks to the receipt. However, the discovery did not yield any fresh or useful data, making it another dead end. After hearing the news of the family members being missing, many people across the country reported seeing them. Numerous calls and letters came in with information. One caller even claimed to have had a vision of the family near a totem pole in the water. Despite these leads, the investigators were unable to locate the missing family. Around 50 miles from Portland, authorities kept searching the forests. Then, in February 1959, they discovered a new piece of information: a set of tire tracks that matched the family's 1954 Ford station wagon on a bluff overlooking the Columbia River. The tracks appeared to go off the cliff, which was unsettling. Did the missing Martin family fall into the river as they were reversing? The Army Corps of Engineers reduced the water level behind Bonneville Dam to locate the automobile. However, the search was fruitless. The next break in the case was not for several months. After more than 5 months had passed since the family went missing, Virginia and Sue's bodies were discovered floating in the Columbia River in May of 1959. Their official cause of death was stated as drowning. Virginia Martin, however, had a mystery hole in her skull when her body was discovered, and because the girls' bodies had been decaying for such a long time, an autopsy was unable to conclusively determine what might have caused it. Barbie, Barbara, and Kenneth were still missing. Had they also perished, or were they still someplace in the wild? The Martin family disappeared, leaving behind their oldest child, Donald Martin, who was 28 years old and serving in the Navy at the time. He was stationed in New York, which was on the opposite side of the country from Portland, where his family lived. After the disappearance, Donald returned home to take care of his family's affairs, but he did not attend the memorial service for his sisters. Donald Martin was the only surviving member of the Martin family. I know of no one who would murder my folks, or no reason for it, but I do not see how it could have been an accident, Donald told Detective Walter Graven at the time. Years were spent by Graven trying to piece together the vanished Martin family. He also reached the unpleasant conclusion that Donald might be responsible for their disappearance. Graven wrote in his journal, "It had to be planned out by," he scribbled the suspect's name above the phrase, "no one else with a motive." The scratched out name was Donald, according to one investigator's computer enhancement. A bloody revolver discovered close to a stolen automobile that had been abandoned in Cascade Locks, where the Martins were last seen alive, served as another piece of evidence connecting Donald to the disappearance. It was completely coated with dry blood from whatever they had clubbed, explained Bonnie Cox, whose husband found the gun. They had clubbed something to death, apparently. The Cox gave the revolver to the local sheriff, but perplexingly, he never examined it as potential evidence. Later, investigators discovered a startling connection between the pistol and Donald Martin. Before being fired a few weeks earlier for allegedly stealing goods, including the revolver discovered close to where his family vanished, Donald had previously worked at a nearby sporting goods store. With the case turning cold, Detective Graven wrote in his notes, "Even though I can get no cooperation from anyone, there is no murder that cannot be solved." But Graven never solved the Martin family's missing persons case. 1988 saw his passing, and in 2004, Donald Martin passed away. The Martins vanished 65 years ago, yet their disappearance is still unresolved. The Martin family's fate is unknown. Two likely explanations are supported by the evidence. Kenneth Martin may have unintentionally backed over a bluff after filling up his automobile with 5 gallons of gas, sending the family's station wagon into the Columbia River. The Martin family might have been the victims of a crime, which is a more ominous prospect. The lone surviving family member is linked to a stolen automobile and a bleeding gun, which presents a bleak picture. Did Donald Martin take part? It is improbable that the disappearance of the Martin family will ever be solved in the absence of fresh evidence and with 3 family members still unaccounted for. I want to make a few final points. It took more than 10 years for someone to claim the sisters' cremated bodies. There were paint fragments from the Martin family's automobile recovered on the bluff where the tire tracks were discovered. This case is still under observation. It is important to note that a detective just scheduled an interview with Martin's son to gather information. He abruptly canceled, saying his family had advised him against going, according to KOIN. I hope you all are enjoying your Christmas holidays. Tell me your thoughts below, and I'll see you next Friday.